Hello, hello, hello. Today we're talking about tomorrow I become a woman. And guess what?
So, are you guys ready?
We've got the author right here.
I knew I wanted to talk about the Civil War because I had this colleague who she's not Igbo, but her grandmother disappeared during the Nigerian Civil War. Like she literally walked out of the house and never came back. I was really moved listening to her speak about it, and I was like, I want to write about the Civil War. How someone disappearing is quite different from someone dying, because disappearance leaves this hope in the family. Like, okay, there's no closure. Like, what if? What if? Maybe we've not looked enough. And I just felt like I really wanted to write about it. The day I listened to her speak, I was like, wow, I want to write about this.
Hey, you. Welcome to the What Reading Book Podcast, the no boring zone where we get you all excited about books that are worth reading.
On the What Reading Podcast, you get some unbiased take on books, juicy scoops of what runs through the minds of your favorite author. You can call us your virtual book connoisseurs that help you filter through the many books out there and let you know the ones worth reading.
On this podcast, we talk about different book genre. We do not discriminate, from fiction to non-fiction, poetry, biographies, memoirs, you name it, so long as it is written by an author of African descent and project our very own authentic African stories. You can count us in. So welcome on board and thank you for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Hello, hello, hello. Where did that come from? Hi, everybody. It's yet another episode of What's Reading Podcast, and I'm so excited. You can literally hear my laughter or sense my smile behind this voice.
It's palpable, right?
Yeah, this is one particular episode I've been looking forward to for a while, and for obvious reasons, because it's about a book that got me really excited. I've not been this excited about the book in recent times. Well, apologies to don't you calm down now. Don't be folding my hands. Anyways, let's get back into it. I'm super excited about this episode because after such a long while, we're having like yet another author with us today, and it's a book that is sort of like the rave of the moment. Not even sort of, it's actually the rave of the moment, and it's such a privilege to have the author right here with us on the show. Hi Shay, good to have you here.
Hi Toby, good to have you here. Good to have gone through this book. So much to unpack on this episode, and I really can't wait to dive in.
Yeah, without taking much of our time for that, I will be introducing the book in focus today, and of course our special guest. Today we're talking about Tomorrow I Become a Woman, and guess what? We've got the author right here. Aiwanose, I hope I got the pronunciation correctly. It's Aiwanose Odafen. Yeah, I said today, tomorrow I become a woman is the book in focus, right?
Yeah, today, tomorrow.
Pun intended. But it's so good to have you here, Haiwa. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. I'm great actually, and I'm excited to be here. So thank you for having me on. To answer your question, it's Aiwanose Odafen, but everyone calls me Aiwa. So
Aiwanose. What state are you from? You know, as we typically ask in Nigeria.
Edo State, Isha, Uromi.
Wow.
Okay, great.
Let us just dive right into it. Where did you get the courage and all of those historical facts about the Biafran War and the Nigerian Civil War, right? I honestly felt like the name sounded very Edo-ish, but I was confused when I started reading the book, and I'm like, maybe she's Igbo. Maybe her mom is from the eastern part of the country. So please let us in on that very quickly, and we'll dive right into what your book is about afterwards.
So my dad is from Edo State, and my mom is actually Yoruba. But I grew up but I was born in Lagos.
Okay.
I was born in Lagos, and I grew up in Abuja, and I grew up around like people from every tribe, literally.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And what's the kind of family background that I come from it? So we're just generally very open-minded, because even my mom isn't fully like Yoruba technically, because her mom isn't Yoruba. So it's like such a mixed, family and everything.
Yeah.
But then again, I have a lot of Igbo friends. When I started writing this initially, like I wasn't sure. I've said this before. I didn't come from a writing background or anything, so it started out as this thing where I felt like I wanted to write something. I had something to say, but then I wasn't, confident about it. So I was writing it like secretly.
Mm.
My best friends knew, and I felt I wanted to write something set in a particular time. I just felt like if I had any question, I had a lot of Igbo friends I could ask, and then
Oh,
also I could
okay.
do my research, and I started about language
Yeah.
because my Igbo friend like helped me like read through line by line to be like, okay, yes,
Oh,
change this.
okay.
Oh, this is too
Yeah.
literal. Yes,
These
actually.
are the
So
real
so
heavy
that was really
females.
helpful. Yeah, so that was really, really helpful. So that was why I was like able to, and I knew I wanted to talk about the Civil War because I had this colleague who she's not Igbo,
Hmm.
but her grandmother disappeared during the Nigerian Civil War. Like she literally
Mm.
walked out of the house and never came back. You know,
Wow.
Wow.
and like very much like Kainene in Half of a Yellow Sun. Like literally walked out
Yeah.
of the house and
Yeah.
never came back. And I was really moved listening to her speak about it, and I was like, I want to write about the Civil War because I realized, and I'm sure it's something that like it's known, but it's not really like talked about enough. How someone disappearing is quite different from someone
Mm,
dying,
mm,
because
Yeah. Yeah.
its appearance leaves this hope in the family. Like, okay, there's no
Mm-hmm.
closure. Like, what
Mm-hmm.
if?
yeah.
What if? Maybe we've not looked
Yeah.
enough. And I just felt like I really wanted to write about it. The day I listened to her speak, I was like, wow, I want to write about this. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Amazing. And you
yeah, and
did
then so
such
everything just came
justice to it.
together. Sorry.
It's add such great justice to the subject matter and actually shining the spotlight on the whole Biafran war and trying to replicate the kind of feeling the Chili Heavy reader felt about Kainene in Half of a Yellow Sun. I think a character that kind of like sort of like similar to that is
Uncle Ikenna.
Ikenna. Yeah, hopefully Ikenna
Yeah.
exactly
Uncle
left us
Ikenna
feeling
that.
like, yeah, how he just disappeared and the whole family was seeking closure. And all. But before we give away so many spoilers and, get right into the
Yeah,
meat of
we'll have to
the
give it
we'd love to
spoilers
hear a bit
actually. We can't
about
help it.
yourself. We want to learn more about who Aiwanose is beyond just the author. So if you want to share a bit about yourself, let us know more. That would
Yeah,
be
yeah.
really
Just to chip in, one of the things you mentioned is you didn't really have a writing background, and so it's interesting to know where all of that writing came from. While you talk about yourself, where was it environmental influences, or you just would always scribble and scribble and scribble until it became a notepad, and then it became larger than a notepad, and then you realize that, oh, this looks more like a manuscript than a notepad. And then from a manuscript, decided that, oh, I can't keep this alone as a manuscript. It deserves to go into the hands of people and into the shelves of bookshops. So let's
So
hear you.
I love how you paid
so
homage to your literature teacher, by the way. And so I'm sure by the time you're talking about this, you're probably going to mention her. Yeah, shout out to all the amazing English literature teachers out there that are really doing the blood job. Like, you guys are the real MVP. I know one of the people that actually encouraged me to think there was something spectacular about my writing also was my English teacher during those English composition, English comprehension classes in secondary school. So please let us in on all of
yes.
that.
Oh wow. Well, I never thought I was going to become a writer. Let me just make that clear. Like,
Yeah.
I studied accounting in university. My first degree is in accounting. My
Okay.
second degree, I have an MBA, and then I'm also a chartered accountant with ACCA. So I was fully on the whole business path and everything.
Yeah.
so
Interesting.
so that's why. Like I did, so I had this profile with the Republic, and I remember I said that in some way I consider myself a numbers person because I've just always been a numbers person, all my life, right? But then
Yeah.
I've also always loved to read, and growing up, my
Yeah.
parents really encouraged me to read, especially my dad. So like he used to buy me books a lot,
Oh,
and I
okay.
just loved reading. And back then, like my dad and I had this thing where we'd go to bookshop, like almost like book shopping days. Like we'd just buy books, and when I
Yeah,
finish, I'll
yeah.
tell him I
Which
want to go
shops did
back.
you used to go to
And
back
so,
then?
Not
oh,
really nice.
CSS. No, no.
Of course,
No,
of course, we come
remember,
on, come on. We're still upcoming. We probably were still trying to. I think the first time I probably stumbled on CSS was during the Nigerian book, International Book Fair. So it's probably going to be CSS
CSS
or any of these
bookstore at
bookstores owned by the Tejuchu
CMS.
brothers, Jazz Hole,
yeah,
and
yeah,
maybe
Yeah,
Glendora.
I've been to Jazz Hall. I've been to Glendora. Those are very, very scenic bookshops actually. So one of the reasons why I
Yeah,
like those bookshops is there's something that they try to preserve as their identity in terms of you
mm,
go there and it's not just about the book. There's something else that will draw you there. So even if you don't want to pick up a
yeah,
book, you want to pick up an audio file or something,
CD.
just and then along the way you pick
Yeah,
up a book, or you want to sit down and maybe grab a coffee and then you pick up a book. So yeah, but
mm-hmm,
sorry to
mm-hmm.
chip that in.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
yes, definitely. So we used to go to CSS bookshop then and buy books, and then there was also this other Christian bookshop. I'm trying to remember the name
Bible
in Setu.
Wonderland.
Then it was like no, I think it was Loki or
No,
something like that.
yeah,
I
local
think it was
bookshop,
Loki.
yeah,
Atala.
local, yeah,
Yeah, so
local.
like
Okay, are you serious? Where
Yeah,
were
local in
they?
Abuja. In
in
Abuja,
Setu there in
zone, I think
Abuja. Yeah,
zone 4 or so.
Hmm.
this one falls on. I don't know it's in Wuse. I just
Yeah,
I'm terrible at
one of
directions.
those
So
zones, one of those zones around
yeah,
customs
but
office.
Do they still
so my
exist
dad
till
used to take.
date? Faye?
I think
Yeah, they still
so.
exist.
Oh,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
yeah. So then my dad used to, I remember one time I finished like I was reading really fast, and then one particular period I was reading really fast because like it was a way for me to escape, and like I was and then in school I think I was stressed, and I finished reading like within a week or so. My dad was I went back to my dad to buy a book, and I was like, and he said go and write your own. Like they were kind of tired, like I'm just finished buying. And he told me then, well,
Reading is a very
and he told me
expensive
then
hobby,
like exactly. So it was like you just finish when you finish reading. But please, I should go and buy my own. I should go and write my own rather. And then I remember then I told him like, oh, I don't have anything to say. Like and this was a teenage me, then I didn't have anything to say. Like I just never saw myself. But then I had this literature teacher, Mrs. Enreta Mugumezi, who is like she's so wonderful. She still comments on my Facebook till today. She's
Oh,
like,
bless
I'm so
her.
proud of
Oh,
you.
That's lovely.
She's such a lovely woman. And I remember back then, she knew how much I loved to read. So she used to exchange books with me, which was really, really
Lovely.
kind. And
So
then
sweet.
like even the way she taught literature kind of it really helped with like how I approach reading, the way you really analyze and see just beyond the surface, right? And it was just
Mm.
I just felt really connected to the works we read. I remember reading when I read Joys of Motherhood. I always say that that book
yeah,
radicalized me.
Buche
Like the way we
Mecheta.
Yeah, Buchi
Uche
Mechita.
Mecheta, like the way we approached the study just really changed how I saw literature, in general, and just made me want to read more and know more. And I remember then when my father was like, "Well, write your own," I went to her and then she exchanged books with me, so I had new books to read. And I also borrow from the library. So how I started writing was so then we used to write like short things, and like I know we wrote poems in class sometimes, like we would experiment with that. Then
Hmm.
I loved writing essays. So, like I was actually very big on like writing essays, like non-fiction, things like that.
Yeah,
Like I really enjoyed
Mm-hmm.
non-fiction.
writing
Yeah,
essays. Yes,
yeah. How you
I'll be
spent your
honest
last
and say that
holiday?
but I'll be honest and say that I never really like I wasn't the kind that like wrote stories and told myself stories or things like that. I just loved reading other people's works. I just genuinely appreciated other people's writing. And I remember when my mother's first book, Purple Hibiscus, came out, and
Popular viscous.
my dad got me a copy, and I cherished that copy so much. But then my family lost it somehow. But I didn't lose it; they lost it. But
Yeah, it happens to
but
all of our good old books.
all right.
I
So
know.
but then like during my masters, when I was doing my masters, I made a friend, and I met someone who was going through a particular situation that was quite difficult. And I remember
What year
then I
was
tried
that?
to like help. This was in 2015. So
Okay.
it
Okay.
was like a very perchance meeting. Like we did this same complex, and then I was I think I was going in, she was coming out, and I was like, hey, and I'm like, oh, you're Nigerian, right? And then we just started
Yeah.
chatting, and then we exchanged, and then anyways, Fast forward and like a couple of weeks, months, I realized like kind of situation she was in, and I really felt bad about it. And I tried to help, you know. Then I was a lot younger, I was a lot more naive, and I was like trying to just do the best I could. And I remember I even called my mom to ask about it. And anyway, so what happened was I was trying to give advice, and I just felt like I was becoming the enemy, you know, because you know how it is in Nigeria when you're if you tell a woman to leave a situation, it's like you're trying to scatter a marriage. You know,
Exactly.
Yeah.
everyone says like you become the problem. You that I felt like I was going crazy, and I remember I spoke to my friend about it. Like after I left the UK, I came back. I tried to keep in touch, but we just like the friendship just literally died. And I remember I was ranting to a friend about like what to do to help. Like I didn't. And he started telling me the same Nigerian things. Oh, you know, God has joined together, things like that. This is someone that's
Meso
like so
boku
it's someone that's like
kasaba.
so this is someone that's like my contemporary, and I was like, we're almost the same age, and you're speaking like this, like how are you speaking like our parents' generation and everything? And like this is I first and I told him, I remember I told him then I was like I'm going to write about it. So till today, he still jokes that he's inspiration for my book. So I owe him
Oh
Mm.
some of
well,
my
So
absolutely.
your
Part of the
reality.
loyalty,
so
percentage of your
I
royalty, right?
yeah, so like I started out thinking I was just going to write something. I didn't even know. I felt like I knew I wanted to write a novel. I didn't even know why I knew I wanted to write a novel, but I just knew I wanted to write a novel, and I had the idea, and it just stayed in my mind for like a couple of months, and I did nothing about it. Then in 2016, I actually drafted out like an outline. I was like, I'm going to try, and then that's how it started.
Wow,
And
amazing.
yeah, so
Wow,
that's how I
it's
got
been
into writing.
it's been many years in the making.
Yes, it's been a long time. It's been making.
Um, well, that's so good
I
to
was
hear.
hoping you were going.
I think that one
We're
of the
hoping
things
what?
that I find interesting is how so there's something that I've always learned, and the fact that some people say that we don't choose the stories, that the stories choose
Mm-hmm,
us. So
mm-hmm,
many writers always acknowledge that they'll say that a writer doesn't wake up looking out for a story. Many times the story just decides to find them, and if the writer is unwilling to tell the story, moves on to the next person. And so sometimes you just realize that you had a story you wanted to tell, but you were dilly dallying, and then you see pick up another a book or something, and you realize that oh, this was what I had in mind to write. So
mm-hmm.
it's interesting to hear that how you, in quotes, may have stumbled on that situation, but how that then became a story that you told and told in a very very vivid and very excellent manner. I must say, and so that's
Thank
good to
you.
hear.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
I appreciate
it
you
sounds
saying
like
that.
a kismet, like something that a story that was just meant to be, and it's a very important message and important story that needed to be put out there, and a very timely one at that. I feel that sometimes it's almost
Hmm.
like our world is in some kind of slumber whenever it comes to issues that have to do with domestic violence. And so oftentimes we usually need one of those stories to make an appearance in the mainstream to jolt us back to the reality of what is actually happening. Of course, I think the entire world, Nigeria, went agog when the whole story of Osinachi was making waves. And then
Mm-hmm,
suddenly, I
mm-hmm,
think it was last week or during the weekend, the story of this lady called Bimbo, if you're in Nigeria or you're also in
Yeah.
social media
Hmm.
space, also made its way
The
online. And
IVD's wife, right?
the
Yes.
IVD
Yes.
wife
Exactly.
story, the lady that
Yeah.
set herself ablaze, and we could go on, and there are so many
Mm-hmm.
countless stories that don't even make it into the media, and some that just get buried, and it might be the woman selling fish in your neighborhood or the woman selling pepper, and is actually going through that. Literally, as soon as I turned the last page of this book, I went on Twitter and I saw the tweet of this lady. I think she should be a teenager or in her early 20s that was crying for help and
Yeah,
had
that reported
like very gory videos of her mom and how the dad was literally beating her, and and was crying for help, that she really needed people to come rescue her mom from that situation. And guess what? You would think that with the level of awareness that we have concerning abuse and issues like this, that people would come to our rescue, but there were still some very foolish people Yes, I used the word foolish because it's very, very annoying. Like they were still there that were like, maybe there's something that your mother did to offend the man. That's why he's actually treating her like this, that you as a child, you are not privy to and all of that. And I'm like, hello, when are we going to grow beyond this very primitive way of thinking and rationalizing issues issues like this? And it was quite a painful one. And I'm like, we still have a very long way to go as a society. Which brings me to my next question. So I know that this book has been generating a lot of buzz as well beyond Nigeria. I'm in the UK and I actually have a UK copy here. I've seen quite a number of people share posts about the book with you on social media that are not Nigerians.
Yeah, I
I
also
just
have
wanted to
the
get a
UK
feel
copy
of what
here.
their feedback has. Yeah. Thanks for rubbing high dog. So I mean, I imagine that you've been getting mixed feedback and reception concerning this, and I'm quite curious to know what non-Nigerians actually have to say about your book, especially those that have been privileged to read the story. Do they find it unrealistic? Do they find it relatable? Are these issues just peculiar to our culture as a people only, or it actually cuts across race and tribes?
So just to answer your question directly, to be honest, when I was writing, I felt like I was writing something that a lot of women, not just Nigerians, could relate to, and generally that's been my experience in terms of feedback. Like, so my editor, for example, she's a person of color, but she's British, and she kept telling me like she could relate to it on so many levels, and she knew friends that had gone through difficult relationships like that, and and she could see people she knew, right? I've also had other women reach out to me or just post on their social media or message to say, thank you so much for writing this. I really get it. I really, it may not be my own personal situation, but I really get it. But then I've had people say things like, oh, this must be how they treat women in Nigeria. But like as in, like they don't, like it's not, I don't think they meant it in a bad way. But then from what they've posted on their social media, it was from a very like, oh, I think cultural context is this, that. So, and I kind of understood in that, some women haven't, they've been lucky enough not to see things like that. So, I'm happy for them that they haven't been subjected to that. But, it's the reality of many people, not just in Nigeria, not just, So, for me, I'm just happy that, because when I wrote it, I wanted the characters to feel real. I wanted people to feel like I know this person, because I feel in one way or the other, we've all known people like this. Because, like you said, most of the stories don't make it into the media. And so when the back of the book says loosely based on women known to the author, it's literally loosely based on people I know and I've known over the years, not just this one friend. So it was sort of an accumulated frustration that made me say, you know what, I'm going to write about this. And like I know people, relatives, friends, family friends, and when you're in the church, you hear this story. You hear this.
When I posted about this book on my socials, right, I was, after reading it, the first thing that came to mind was like, am I being naive to think that men like Gozier, or the character of Gozier that you paint in the book, is grossly exaggerated? And I got quite a number of feedback in my DM of people that were like, girl, don't even go there. Like, may you continue. I had to come to the conclusion that may I continue to wallow in this naivety. May I never encounter men like that. Daughters never come across men like that. But whether you like it or not, there were people that kept on talking about how they feel. Like, whether you like it or not, these things are happening. It's real. It's not like there are monsters like that man out there. And so, I would really love to hear Sheri's take concerning this. What kind of emotions were running through your head? Did you feel like slapping the guy or stabbing him at some point from a male perspective? Or you kind of rationalize and feel like, I know where it's coming from?
So it's not possible to rationalize, actually. It's not possible to rationalize whatever action that Gozier took in the book. So for context, for those that are, for our listeners, I'll just sort of give a backstory to who Gozier was. Gozier is, I wouldn't call him the main character in the book, but it was someone that really, really had a bad outing, along the journey of this book.
Why
And
are
one
you
of the
painting
things
this
that
nicely? Fine
one
job.
of these one of the things that stood him out is that going from a relative obscurity to sort of a point of prominence. And then, but along that journey, he had tainted himself with engaging in domestic violence, beating his wife. So beating is more of an understatement. Pummeling his wife at different intervals, and just never looking back. Along the
Why are
way,
you
he
wasting
then
grammar on the
gets
guy?
into an extramarital
Guys,
affair,
you will
and then
continue,
has a
oh, but just
son
allow me say
and
this,
stuff like that.
please.
But
Oh my
anyway,
god,
so
you're giving.
yeah. So to answer your question, I'm not trying to paint him properly. I'm just trying to give context to who Goze was in the book. And to answer your question, I think the first thing that came to mind was I felt pity. Not pity for I felt pity for the women, and I didn't feel pity because of what Goze did to her, to Obianuju. I felt pity for her mother and how her mother would always say, "Go back," and the reasons she would give for sending her back. Oh, you want someone else to enjoy everything you suffered for. Oh, look at this house. You want someone else to come and live in this house that you built with him and things like that. For Goze, I really think that yes, there are men like that. I think that there's no excuse to have done whatever he did. There's really there's nothing that you can say that would justify not just laying hands. Laying hands is bad enough, but all of the extent to which he went, and the final straw for me was when he literally tried to kill his daughter for standing up to him, and when Obianuju called him to say, "Oh, they are trying to have a surgery because she has a severe condition," he said she can die. So that was really quite sad, and I think
That's
that
the height of it,
like
right?
Toby, yeah, like Toby has said, like when you say that may our daughters never encountered men like that, you realize that it's not just a prayer for the daughters, it's also a prayer for the daughters of the daughters, if you get what I mean.
Yeah.
Because it was not just
Yeah.
Obianuju that experienced that in that case, but the daughter of
Mhm.
Obianuju also experienced
Obianuju.
that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I agree. No, I totally
Yeah.
agree because, like, I just speak on that because being a daughter in that situation, I think leaves a mark. Because I think for a lot of women, they are told, and it's this case with Obianuju in this book, her mother says, "Go back for your children, go back for your children, go back for your children." But one of the reasons I wanted to show how this affected her own children was because, like, when you say go back for your children, right? People don't really stop to think how healthy is it for a child to grow up seeing all this?
exactly,
Kids, yeah.
exactly,
How traumatizing do you think it is for a child to grow up in this sort of environment? Because I feel, people say go back for your children, children, and then people also make some kind of comments about people from homes that from homes with like divorced parents and things like that. No, we throw up this kind of comments in general. It's not about women. We say stuff like, "Oh, we can't don't marry a woman from a
broken.
divided home or for a broken home
Mm-hmm.
because she's
Mm-hmm.
this, she's this, she's that." We have these labels we put on these situations that make women stay in unhealthy situations. I wanted to put a mirror up and say, but how do you think that child would be growing up in that sort of situation? How normal do you expect this individual to be? What level of trauma are you subjecting children to in the name of keep your home together? You know, and so that's why I was really eager to write a character like Ego, and yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I love her name so much.
Onwake go.
Nwakego means like it's so memorable. I almost imagine that I'm always the one that talks about the book cover. Yes, I'm going to talk about the book cover this time around again.
Oh
I
yeah.
imagine that the three women here is first Obiageli, then Obianuju, and then Nwakego. Tell me if I'm right or wrong, or you have like another interpretation for
No,
that.
I would say there's Chinelo in here, there's Adalgo, and there's Obianuju here.
Well,
Mm.
I'm sorry to burst both your bubbles, but
Hey, my
like you're
chest.
both wrong.
Away.
But so we so like when designing this cover, like we really
What are
wanted
the
to
odds,
show women
Shay?
at different
Odo Rabata.
at, at different stages of life, right? So it wasn't really
Yeah.
about one particular character or several
Oh,
characters. It was really about because the title of the book is "Tomorrow I Become a Woman," and the entire
Yeah,
theme of the book was basically how society puts these milestones like, oh, when you do this you're a woman. You know, when you like you've heard women say things like
exactly, exactly.
they felt like they weren't women just because they couldn't have children, you know. So it's like
Not just
when you do
children,
this, or
male
they
children.
male children,
yeah.
no, you're a woman now. Or when you have your menses, you're a woman. Or when you get married, you're a woman. Or when you have your first, so when do you actually become a woman? So the cover was really just to show this, to show like women at to show women at different stages in life, you know, and that transition. But do you know what? One thing I love about art and literature is that everyone
Yeah, different
translates it in the
interpretations
way
to it.
in
Well,
Yeah.
honestly. So whatever you
Fascinating,
translate
right?
it as is right.
so
Yes,
you
it
know
is.
what you just said now about the title saying tomorrow I become a woman. I realized that really tomorrow never comes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you hold on to that saying that it's tomorrow that you become a woman, well, you just may never become a woman in that context, as it
Yeah.
were. So
Yes,
I think that the lesson from it is you really do not need any you do really do not need societal validations to become anything
Yeah.
or anyone. You know,
yes.
either the thing or person that nature has conferred on you to be, or
Mm-hmm.
the thing that you want to aspire to become.
Yes.
There's no tomorrow defined by
Mm-hmm.
someone else. It's as you
Yes.
choose to define it. And one of the things that, well, I'm sorry to
I like
jump
that
the
this
gun. I
is
don't know
coming
what
from Shay from a
uh, the
man.
next
Like
the
he
next
gets it.
question that
1,000 years of husband
um
material. Okay.
I don't know what Toby's next question will likely be, but one of the sad stories from the book was actually Shinelo. And why I find it so sad is how there's this pressure, there's this societal eye, right? And where, oh, you've not, because
I'm
you've
sure
not
it's
done this,
insatiable,
there's no
right?
validation that you get. Yeah, so you see people in the book that, have had 5 daughters and they really do want to have a son, because
That's
once
7
they've not had
girls.
a son,
Hey.
then it doesn't, and it's quite sad that, because of that, someone that, had a severe health condition would still want to brave, the odds to still go through the torture, the rigor of childbirth. Eventually, she had a daughter again, anyways. So she lost her life, and to a
You're
situation she had
giving
no.
away everything. Oh my god, like
She,
you're giving away the terrible.
no, yeah, yeah. So the
Yeah,
idea,
can you
yeah,
go
it's
from
true. Yeah,
the
we have to.
spoiler Shay you
Yeah,
just
so
dropped?
because the
I just
idea is for
let's
people
take a
to
minute.
really, really go and pick up this book.
But we should not give them reasons to now know what exactly is in it. I think
No,
we should
they
take a
won't know
minute to
everything.
talk about the
There's so much
role.
juice in it, actually.
Let's take a minute to talk about the role religion and Christianity, as it were, as portrayed in this book, actually um, was a major factor in the
Mhm.
lives of the characters and how every single event played out. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a tendency when I was sharing my thoughts about the book with one of my team members, and the first thing she mentioned was that, hey, at this rate, everybody that encounters Bose in Tomorrow I Become a Woman will definitely hate Christian brothers. And I'm like, oh well, and in my mind, I'm like, okay, did Iwa just
The ones
decide
with
to go after
the,
all these pretty Coco brothers and everything? And I want to take away the fact, I feel that irrespective of whether it's Christianity or Islam, a man that is a beast and is a monster and has very terrible or is really very terrible character deficits. It would always be whatever it is or has very terrible tendencies. Let's be honest. However, I would not take away the fact that religion has had a major role to play in how everything played out in this book. For instance, I feel Chinelo would probably not have made that move if not for the sudden, what's the name, sudden infilling of faith that she used to actually supersede the role of medicine, of our health or our wellness. And sometimes it begs the question of the kind of God that we practice, that we worship in Nigeria. And I feel that it's not actually the God of the Bible, let's be honest. And a
is
lot of
it
people,
different?
well, I think the Nigerian God, the gospel that they preach in Nigeria is different from the God that may I encounter when I read my Bible on my own. And that's why I'm always all about having a personal relationship with God. I feel in Nigeria, when you go to church, I think
I think it's a
we are
question
more
of what were you
Christianized.
listening to?
We practice churchism rather than actually what relationship. Personally, that's my opinion. People sort of like suspend their thinking when they go to church. And there's a particular school of faith that also talks about the fact that, oh, faith is not supposed to be rational. You're supposed to drop every form of pragmatism and, logic, and just, wear faith like it doesn't make any sense. But in the real sense of it, when you begin to look at what the practicality of what faith is, or the kind of life Jesus lived while he was on earth, which is my own example. I don't know about other people. Jesus encouraged us to ask questions. Jesus encouraged us to be curious. And he wasn't someone that wanted people that would just follow him like donkeys. He wanted people that were going to engage him, that were going to actually ask these deep questions, that would be vulnerable with him and would come to him in their most authentic self. And so I honestly feel that the Nigerian Christianity, the Nigerian God, unfortunately, for personal or for selfish reasons, is not being portrayed in that manner to us in churches. And so I felt really bad about what happened to Chinelo. Unfortunately, if you want to know what happened to Chinelo, then you should definitely grab a copy and read. Like, forget the fact that we are giving you guys spoilers here. It's a different experience when you read this book. And this book made me break a personal record. Let me be frank. I'm a very busy person. Like, I have 1001 things to do. But guess what? I picked up this book like around 5:30 on Monday, 5:30 p.m. on Monday, and I was literally useless till like 7 p.m. the next day. But I had to do things in between. From that 5:30, I didn't sleep until like 2 a.m. and I was over like 250 pages gone already.
Well, thank you.
And then I had a couple of meetings afterwards. In the next 4 5 hours, I just couldn't wait to see what would happen. And I have a personal grouse. Please, why did you allow Gozie end up the way he did? Why did you allow justice to be met against him? Please. Why did you just? I'm angry about that ending, door. And I think I'm actually voicing the personal grievances of every other person that have read the book. I understand that it makes sense when a book ends in that way, and authors kind of like do this thing to readers like, "Oh, I can afford to end my book the way I want. Their face go right in your own." But please,
Oh my god.
why did Kose end up that way? Like, I felt like it would have been fair for something to have happened to him. My nemesis should have caught up with the guy and he just got away with it. But whether we like it or not, I feel that that's actually the reality that most of in Nigeria, especially when it comes to DV issues, most of these guys tend to get away with it. And there are very few laws and policies in place that actually empower these women to be able to get justice. And it begs the question that, do you think that a society that is free of every form of abuse is possible, especially in the African context?
Okay, so do I answer the question on religion first, or do I answer this one?
Yeah, you can just take
Yeah,
both.
please.
It's fine. Yeah, in any order.
Okay, in any order. To answer your question, wow, I think we all hope for it, right? It would be wrong to want something and say it's not possible, right? Looking at the current climate and the current situation, it's very easy to say, you know what, there's no hope or more. But but if you I've always been, I don't say I've always been, I've always tried to be positive. I always try to be positive, even in the worst of situations. And so in that spirit of positivity, I want to say that it's possible. We have to just take steps. Like, what are the practical steps we can take? And like you said, we don't have laws that really protect women. Even if like I remember as I was doing some research like, a couple of months back about rape in Nigeria and the number of convictions we've had, and and like since independence, the number is so ridiculous. So why society that quite unfortunately protects the powerful, and a society that allows people to get away with the worst of things. And until we take steps to fix that fundamental problem, we can't make any progress. Until we actually start holding people accountable, until we actually fix our laws, and until we actually implement our laws. Our laws shouldn't just be mere suggestions; they should be actual laws. And
They
then
have to
also,
be
this is not just a
enforced. Yeah.
problem; they should be enforced. And
Yes, but shout
unfortunately,
out to BC Fayemi, former First Lady in Ekiti, said I think she was one of the first people to really pass the anti-rape law. So yeah,
yes, definitely. So we are making. I do think there have been more conversations around this of recent, and we're
Mm-hmm.
gradually taking steps forward, but there's such a long way to go. And not just in Nigeria, even in the US, with the Me Too reckoning, how many people have actually faced justice. And then we also have to create an environment that makes it possible for women to speak up, that encourages women to speak up, that doesn't silence women, because many people are going through these kind of situations in the dark. And if we create an environment where women can feel comfortable enough to come out and speak and actually be believed, then we can make progress as a society. If not, then it's going to just continue. If women know when they come out, they will be shamed, they will be harassed, they will be abused, and then there will be no reckoning for their abusers. Then it really begs the question, like, what's the point? So that's an answer to that question. And to your other question about why I ended it the way I ended. So first of all, particularly about Gozie, I wanted to be realistic. It's very so
Mm.
I had an author say to me, say not to me, try it in general. She said I was there in the room, but she was like that she doesn't like writing Nollywood. And so I think it will be very it will it will be very Nollywoody to be like,
Who
oh
is that
yeah,
person?
it's
That is very savage.
so that's
so like
Nollywood's
Our
version of
people.
Apilieva, right?
so she
Yeah.
doesn't like writing
Come
no
back
no
at your
no no,
sobo,
no.
my people.
So I didn't want to write like the Nollywood story where he suffers from all predicaments. This happens, that happens. I wanted to be realistic. Powerful men get away with all sorts.
Yeah.
That's just
Mm.
the fact, and it's quite
Sad
sad.
reality, actually.
It's a sad
Yeah, it is.
reality. So I wanted it to be as realistic as possible. Like I said, I wanted people to be like, oh, I know this person. I've seen this person. Or I know somebody
Mm.
that did this to his wife and nothing happened to him till today. But that's the
Yeah.
very sad reality. Um, but then I also ended it on a very hopeful note for for Uju, which was what I really wanted to do. Like I wanted it to be such that women could read that and feel there's hope, regardless of everything. There's hope. There's still like there's hope regardless of everything. There's still like the future can still be. I know it sounds so cliche, but the future can still be very bright. And so that's why I ended it that way, and also because I plan that I also plan to write something else that sort of, I won't say continues the story because it doesn't continue the story directly,
Yeah.
but it's also like so I'll get back to that later. Now to your other question about
No trouble.
religion, it's impossible to write about Nigerians without writing about religion. We are very religious people. Like let's be
Yeah.
honest. We are very we
Yeah.
are very very religious people, and I grew up in the church, and
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in the church, and I grew up Christian, and I'm a Christian, and I know the sort of things I've witnessed. Even like I know the kind of stories I've heard, I know the things I've seen, and I really wanted to write reality. And I think one thing that's really meant the most to me since this book came out, one thing that's really meant was like people like texting me, messaging me on Instagram to say, I know someone like this, or yes, this is so true, or and about the church, it's quite sad, but then the church plays has really played such a role in making it difficult for women to live. We teach messages
Yeah.
about how divorce is this, divorce is that.
Women of
You
destiny.
should you should
Have you seen
women
Men
of
of Destiny
and
before? It's only
there was
one
a time
Nigerian church that will be sisters conference. Where are the men conference? Where you say they are prayer mountain for
yes,
our
But
oh
family.
no,
my
Are you
god,
inviting men for
no, but they
similar
hold,
prayer
but they
mountains?
actually hold. So here's the thing. So here's the thing. Sorry to chip in, guys, but here's the thing. I think that the fabric of society is actually matterly woven, right? So what that means is there's that there's that approach to society where we say, oh, our mothers are our bedrock. So the men will say, for instance, there are songs for mothers, sweet mother, there are poems for mothers, right? And there's
yeah.
all sorts of ways, to just, drum that whole praise for mothers, but there's really none for fathers. But I think that what I want to bring out of all of this is,
Are we not
from,
deserving?
no, 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 without a doubt,
Apio,
without a doubt.
please.
What I want to bring out of that is how the bulk of these things that are meted out to women are actually meted out by women, whether we like it or not. That so what I mean by meted out by women, not that
Women
women
are
beat
not
women. No,
immune,
let me
no.
be clear.
Let's not go there. I know women
Hold on.
are
I'm
their
not
own
saying. I'm not
worst
saying that.
enemies sometimes.
Yes, I'm not saying that. Yes, I'm not saying that. Women are the ones that beat women. I'm saying that. Okay, I think I'll take that back. I'll say that women are more of enablers in the sense that the older women that. So, for instance, when a mom told that story, I saw no reason why, having experienced that, not being able to use that as a lesson to get out as quickly as possible, rather than just have her walk through that path all over again. Do you
So
understand? So I think that,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
No. Are you sure? Are you done? You were saying you think that?
I get what
Yeah, so
Shay
I
is trying
think
to say.
that
Shay, let
I
me
think that
come in very quickly.
until we sort of just accept or begin to see how to nip that in the bud, we are not
So,
ready to
so
have that conversation. So if you look at social media, for instance, if you look at even the recent cases where, there's for one of mentioning their names, for instance, there's that whole outrage. If you read the comments of some women, for instance, or some young girls, or some newly married women, for instance, you would really just shrug.
so, so I think it's so I think you also have to consider societal conditioning. You understand? And I
Okay.
remember I was telling a friend this of this, and I was telling him, I said, when you're raised to believe something, and you're told some over and over and over again that something is the right way, you get it. At what
Mm-hmm.
point does that conditioning start? At what point does that conditioning stop? And when does your opinion start? Do you get it?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
your general opinion about this thing is probably phrased and like probably framed by your
It's been
conditioning, because
conditioned
that's
over
what.
time, maybe over the
Yes,
years.
if someone tells you from the time you're born you're going to do, you have to do this is this. Most likely 10 years, couple of years in, that's all you believe, that's all you know. And if you don't go outside of that comfort zone, or you're not questioning, you're not inquisitive, you don't question, because a lot of people just hold their beliefs like cards to their chest, right? And they just bring
Yes,
it out
yes,
when they want to answer questions. They don't look at these cards, they don't question these cards, they don't say, is this okay? Is this right?
yeah.
Is this relevant? A lot of people are quite fixed in their ways. And so yes, I do agree that there are women that create that enablers, like you see Juice Mod, and it was something I really wanted to be clear. It was done on purpose to show that, even in situations like this, there are many women that will say go back. So it's not just a thing Not just, oh, it's only men doing this. It's a problem with society at large. How are we raising people to see this thing? How are we raising women to see situations like this? And I also think we have a culture as a people where it's like, I went through this thing, so why are you complaining? And it's not
Yeah.
just about marriage. It's even about, like, I remember I went to boarding school, right? And like this was junior year, junior secondary school first year, and just one, and
Mm-hmm.
the seniors were wicked. They were wicked. And that time, I remember we talked to some other seniors that were friendly, and they were like, there's nothing. Do you know what we went through? And for me, it was just so
Yeah.
baffling because I was like, if you went through that, why would you now
Why allow
become,
someone else go through that?
Yeah,
that was
like
a
the
very
vicious circle just
traumatized.
continues. Yeah.
It just continues, and it's quite unfortunate, but then it's something that's just normalized. I went so, and I'm okay,
Yeah.
so why can't you? And it takes a conscious decision to say, no, I'm not going to continue, to question and say, why is this right? Why should this cycle continue in just in any situation at all, in any circumstance, right? And it's the same in this situation. A lot of women, they saw their mothers go through, they saw their aunties go through, they know
Mm-hmm.
that, and it's like, why are you complaining? Why are you bringing your dirty laundry out into public?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
should not do this, you should not do that. And because they want to keep the order of society, because they've been brought up to keep the order of society. And there's this perfect, I'm going to paraphrase because I can't remember the exact quote, but someone sent me something recently, and basically the summary is, when the people that are on the receiving end of a terrible situation are made to think it's okay for that situation to be the way it is, right? It becomes a case where the status quo is being upheld from both ends. So the oppressor is upholding it,
Yeah.
and then the people that are being oppressed also feel they should be oppressed, so they are also upholding it. So it's
Holding
like
it.
it's keeping, and it's literally keeping it in place because both sides think, oh yeah, it's normal, it's how it should be. And I think that's the situation in almost every single case of of some form of oppression, and it takes conscious effort and conscious resocializing to say there's a problem. There's a problem. So we need to keep having these kind of conversations, and we need to call out each other and, like, this thing you're saying. Like my friend, when he told me that thing, this is someone that, this is a wonderful guy, nice guy. This was a couple of years back, and I remember I called him out. I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I'm going to write about it, right? And it took a while, but eventually his opinions changed, right? And to today we laugh about it and we joke about it, right? But then if I had
Mm.
not called him out back then, if I'd also maybe supported what he said, right?
Mm.
Maybe he would have never
Kept
questioned
quiet
his
or was
beliefs. Maybe he would have
indifferent.
felt, maybe he would have never questioned his beliefs. Maybe he would have felt like this is not, if I just continued, and maybe
Yeah.
he would have also encountered someone in a difficult situation and told them something like that, right? But then that
Mm.
conversation alone made him question his belief. And I remember, like, it was like a year or two after that, like we were still friends because we've known each other a long time, so we were still friends, and we're still friends to today. And I remember then he messaged me and he was like, do you know, I now believe in divorce. Like, it was just so random. And I was like, and I was like, it was so random. I was like, oh, do you know, I now believe in,
Wow,
I
what
was
a
like,
miracle!
exactly. What happened though? This is a testimony, like,
Yeah,
also
yeah.
because it gave me all sorts of, because it was basically how he'd been conditioned to see divorce, right? And I knew even when I was speaking to him then that he didn't have bad intentions, right? But it was just
Mm-hmm.
how he'd been conditioned, and
He
then
has been
me
conditioned to
pushing
see the world and
to
approach
see the
some of these
world,
things. It
Mm-hmm.
actually brings me to a particular thing that I was so excited that actually happened after the incident or the story of Osinachi began to make its way into the media a couple of months ago. I love how every church and most religious bodies were beginning to become more vocal and were saying that, oh, women, run for your lives, and like, oh, God does not support divorce, but if it's actually life threatening, run for your life first, and all of that. It's actually a break from the norm. I was so excited because before now, there's a way the church actually stigmatized women that decide
Mm-hmm.
to make such moves. I'll cite a very good example.
Yes.
So I don't want to mention the church I grew up in, but I remember very well that during when I was much younger, whenever they are having communion service, they would always mention that women that are either second wives or have been divorced do not qualify to take Holy Communion. And I felt like, what kind of stigma is this? How does this make
Now,
any sense? I'm sure even if a
mhm.
woman is going through hell in her home, when she begins to imagine that, oh, the whole world will look at her, or
They
she
won't
has to
even
go for
allow me
one
take
story or the
communion,
other, and she's
no.
being ostracized, it
Mm-hmm.
begins to make people feel like there's something wrong with you and all. I also feel that on a more final note, because we could go on and on about this topic and we don't have much time on our side, I wanted us to end on a final on the note of coming up with ideas
And
and
who says
steps
we're ending
that
just
we think
yet?
share your time more. But I'm just like, it's a very exciting
Go ahead,
episode
go
and it's a
ahead.
very lengthy one. But I was just
No,
going to
go
say,
go
even
ahead.
if
Are
we're not
you?
ending now, yeah, I was just going to say that it would make a lot of sense for each person to come up with or share one step you can take as a society to actually mitigate or incidents or cases of abuse in our society. So I believe very strongly that hope is not a strategy. We can't continue to hope. We really need to take major steps. And for me, one of the things that this book did was to sort of like put a lot of pressure on me and make me sort of re-engineer my mind towards parenting. I've always been a proponent of making sure there are no gender roles made apparent at the family level or at the family institution, and make sure that even whether you raise a girl child or a boy child, there are no differences. There are no such cases where is the only boy,
Mm-hmm.
is everybody is a girl, that the girls are supposed to be in the kitchen, the guys are supposed
Mm-hmm.
to be lounging and watching television and all. And I feel that it also puts a lot of pressure on parents in this age and time to begin to model and not just say these things. And so I feel
Mm-hmm.
like even your inactions actually matter. There's a saying that when you
Mm-hmm.
choose to be quiet in the face of injustice, it's like you're literally festering it, you're allowing evil
Mm-hmm.
to prevail. And so when you're in a home and there are stuff like, oh, this is daddy's special cup, oh, this plate is for daddy. Like nobody should. I'm not undermining the place of respect and all of that. Or when you grow up in a family where once everybody hears
Eh,
the dad's car is being parked and is coming upstairs with I
You
can just hear
run.
his footstep. Everybody's running helter skelter, and you see
Whatever.
this family of fear. Like
Decide.
it's an issue, and an average boy and an average male child that grows up in that environment just feels that that's the best way to exercise their ego or begin to grow very, very egoistic and all of that. I honestly feel that it puts a lot of it's a clarion call for people that are raising children. If you want a
Mm-hmm.
society that is better, it's society that is free of a society that is free of domestic violence or abuse in every shape or form, whether it's emotional abuse, gaslighting, narcissism, or anything at all. We really need to model what we want to our children. And it's not just in the saying, it's in your actions. It's in how you talk to your wife right in front of your children. It's the way you validate your girl child to feel that she is enough. It's the way you tell her that she should not condone certain behavior and make her feel that she's the best thing in the world. And even training your male child to be vulnerable, to be able to cry. Because I see someone like Gozi as a guy that has probably gone through a lot of trauma too, and unfortunately we didn't
He
get
has
the
a
privilege to dive
working
into
trauma.
details about his character or to know what kind of tribe. The best you told us was that he's orphan, like he lost his parent and all that. But perhaps if we got a chance to dive into his background and his childhood, we probably see a lot of trauma in it, and that probably must have informed the kind of man that he became. So again, he really needs to do better in terms of parenting. Our whole generation, if our the whole generations have failed us, to begin to live up to that expectation of raising men and women or children that are self-confident, children that actually are curious, can ask questions, can actually own their own space. And I don't know, I could go on and on, but I honestly feel that a lot needs to change when it comes to parenting. And our generation needs to be
No.
the one to break that silence, and that's it. Chicken.
Yes, so I hear you, right, Toby. And I think that for me, All I would say is strong institution checks bad actors. So what that means is, yes, family can do that, right? Family is the bedrock. Family is the foundation of molding character, molding behavioral tendencies, and just shaping people. But when they are strong institutions, what that means is when the likes of Brazil never go away scot free, right? If you do not try to be good because you were brought up in a good way, you would at least try to be good because you know that there is a court somewhere that is going to deal with you.
I agree.
So I think
Oh,
yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
no, I said you think no, and I thought you.
No, 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 I'm good.
Well, yes, I think to be honest, I think you guys have said most of it. Especially with regards to like systems, we need to punish bad actors. We need to actively show women that we care about their safety and we care about how they are treated in society. And then I really love what you said about upbringing and children, and especially about silence. I know everyone talks about Ego's mother. It's not Ego, so Uju's mother, right? But then no,
Mm-hmm.
like very few people, like in fact, almost no one has ever messaged me to say I didn't like Uju's father. But then one thing that I really wanted to communicate with how quiet Uju's father was he was there, but he never really did anything
Yeah.
to change anything about what was happening.
I think maybe
He
it's
was
the
well
guilt
aware.
because he's also guilty of the same thing eventually, right?
Yeah,
Because
so
I
exactly.
think it was
So
that guilt that stopped him from. He's not. He doesn't have that moral standing to be able to say this is what my daughter
say,
should do. As much as he loved her, like this life is just a pot of beans and karma is a bitch. That's the truth. Pardon my French, but he did. Please, I also wanted to ask, please, what's the rationale behind those series of beating that Udu's brother were always meeting on Goze?
so
Like they were beating him, but they
so
were
I
not
had
willing to empower her to leave that marriage. Like I was confused.
so so like
Because we weren't empowered.
because so again it's societal conditioning and it's also it's also okay. So let me explain about Uju's brothers. So that's in a way it's based on the real story. So I remember a couple of years back, I had this story about a woman whose brothers like literally like packed her husband in the boot and they beat him silly. Then they brought him back, but then they never like, and they never like. They didn't like end the marriage. They just heard he was beating his wife
It
and they
just
carried
ended
him
there.
and they beat him very well. And they're there, right? And I think that was one of the things I don't know if you remember the conversation between Uju's brothers. They felt very affronted by the fact that he was beating their sister. Like we are here and you are beating our sister. So for them it was almost like an affront on their egos. So it was also a thing about ego
Wow.
and pride, like, oh, they felt like they were being, like it was a disrespect to them, that he
Hmm.
could
Mhm.
beat that he could beat them their sister, right? And also they also didn't think she should end. They also didn't have like again societal conditioning that you stay. It's a marriage, you know. And they also have to understand that before Uju was born, they also saw things between their own parents, right? And their parents still
Mm.
stayed together. So it's very much a situation of where society, and I think it happens so much in our society. Like we know one uncle that treated his wife terribly for years, but they are still together. We know so many, you understand, that we've settled, quarrel, come back, but their shall still together. And
Mm.
it's and I really just wanted to represent reality because I feel when you grow up around this, it becomes normal. Like you
Yeah.
Mhm.
even saying someone should leave is like, why would the person leave? When we're beating him, we've corrected his head. It's okay now. So that was why I really like I
I
said I
get
wanted to make
now.
it as real as
Realistic as
possible.
possible.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's just
that's good
that.
to hear. I think that for me, um, to be honest, we can really talk about this for as long as possible. But yeah, so three things that stick out for me is, and we really do need to touch up on it or talk about it. But the thing about the love that never left, and how there was always one thing that never stopped being extended to her. Talking about see you soon, Smalley. I'll leave it at that. The second thing that stood out for me is the titling of the chapters. I like how you title the chapters, especially the fact that you know I'm reading through and I'll see that that's where this title came from. That's how this word this title is. Just somewhere within the chapter you realize from this conversation or from this exclamation that the title came from. And finally, I would say that it would be interesting to hear your take, being a first time author, and how did it feel like? What were the fears you had when you were going to put this book out? And how do you think a lot of first time authors can sort of overcome those fears as well?
Um, I think that's a question like no one has asked me. Fears. I think I did. To be honest, like as you rightly pointed out at the beginning of this, I'm not Igbo. So I really tried. So when I was writing, I was really very aware of the fact that I'm not Igbo really, and I'm telling this story of an Igbo woman, and I'm telling the story about the Civil War. So I really try to be as respectful as possible. I try to ask like my Igbo friends, like, "Oh, what did you think about this?" Like, is this you get what I mean? And at
Yeah,
no point I did I I didn't want anyone to misunderstand my intentions. About why I wrote this or what I was trying to say with the story or about the story about the Civil War. So I really tried to do as much research as possible. Um, I think another fear I had probably was like, will people care? Like as this story being told over and over and over again, will people care? Because I feel sometimes we become desensitized to issues in society because we just see them over and over, and people talk and we go
mm-hmm,
away, we come back. And I was
mm-hmm,
just worried that, oh, will people really care? Will anyone even want to read this? And but so I would say, and I think it's a fear that many writers actually have. Like this story I'm writing, regardless of what the topic is, I've heard people say, "Will anybody care? Like, why would anybody care about my story?" And I think I'll encourage anyone writing anything right now to just keep at it. Right? It took it took me a while to even finish the first draft of this. I would start, I would stop, I would feel like no one cares, and I'll have a conversation with a friend or someone will call me about something. I'll be like, no, I need to finish this book. Like this is exactly what I'm talking about. I'll be annoyed again and I'll start writing. And I literally was angered at few this book. And listen, there's always a market. There's always someone out there that will care. So don't stop writing. I think, to be honest, because or you think, or maybe like the writing isn't good enough. The craziest thing about writing is you get better by writing. That's the thing about writing. Like you feel like,
Yeah,
oh, maybe I'm not such a
yeah.
good writer,
The
but
more
then
you
if you
do
don't
it, the
write
better
more,
you
you don't get
become.
better. The better you get, like so
mm-hmm,
so like I because if like my first draft of this, like the beginning of my very very first draft was absolutely horrendous. I can tell you for a fact, but I just like but my writing got better as I kept writing, as I kept writing, I kept writing. So I just say keep writing. Honest, that's like the best advice I'd give anyone. Please just keep writing. Like someone will care about your story. Someone will care about
Mm.
your story. Yeah.
that's the, that,
So
that, that- I think
I hope I
that's
answered the
quite
question.
profound. Absolutely, that's quite profound. Someone will care about the
Thank
story. It ties back to what I said earlier that the story, you don't choose the story. So for the writer, you don't choose the story chooses you because the story knows
Mm-hmm.
that there's someone that will care about the story. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a fitting way to tie that together.
I agree. I agree. Definitely.
Yes, this has been fun. I hope you thoroughly enjoyed your
Same.
time here with Orange Iowa.
No, I did actually. I have so far, to be honest. Like it's been really invigorating, and and to be honest, I love talking about this. Like it just makes me excited to
Yeah,
talk about these
I love.
issues. Because
Yeah, I I love the way you come alive when you
Because
address this issue and you're quite passionate about it. Yeah.
thank you. Because I actually why I started writing. Like I always like I because I was so annoyed to be quite honest. Like I was just so like so and for me talking about these things like just feels like this is why I wanted to write. Like I just like I want whether I'm there or I'm not there. Like I just want these conversations to happen. I want people to go back and question and say, is this okay? What can we do? So I'm really happy that these conversations are happening. So yeah, so thank you so much for having me. I'm so like yeah, I'm so excited.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Uh, I was going to ask what do you do for fun aside from writing, aside from reading, just to let people get to know the very real and humane side of Iowa beyond just the author.
That's a good question actually. I would say reading, but I already said aside reading and writing. So
Yes.
I listen. I'm a huge. I don't know if many people know this about me. I doubt, except maybe my very good friends. I'm a huge Korean drama fan. Huge,
K
huge.
drama
Ooh, K
for short.
drama.
And it started in like I'm not even new to this. Listen, I'm a semi OG. Like I started this in 2013. So it's been like no
Really?
2012, not 2013.
Oh,
Yes,
Wow.
2012. So like it's been over 10 years of being a fan
perfect.
of watching everyone else catch up and be like, oh yeah, this is actually good. So we went like
Really?
before it even came to Netflix when we're still like
Yeah,
looking for K drama through the
Boys
back
over
alleys.
flower. Gujumpio.
That was like
perfect.
Oh
OG.
my
oh
god.
my god.
I was
You are
yes,
OG
Oh
before
so
IG.
my OAU days, yes, so OG before IG. Nice one. That's exciting to know. Thank you for
Nice.
sharing that with us.
Thank
Yeah,
and
on that
I'm
note,
also a huge music fan. I just trying to. I
oh
think you see that
lovely.
in the book that I'm a big like I'm really into music.
You
So I
love
think
the
you see that like I
Oh
oldies,
yeah, and yeah, and
R&Bs,
talking about being a
yeah.
music fan, I think
yes.
that I like the end. I'll just say that
Oh,
I like
thank you.
I like
I love that song
going
so
back to.
much.
I like
I
I
love
like
that.
Okay,
so
Mavige, lovely.
yeah, before Toby comes off the mic, yeah, I would say that um one thing I like about the book is while depicted. No, one thing that the book sort of mentions that what the easily is the fact that women, divorce, widows, whatever, are not sorry states, are not finished, as society would like to say. But
Mm-hmm.
there's so I would say that that's one thing that I like how it ended. That, oh yeah, you can say that people go to and God away because of the influencer, but Obianugu also did not leave, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
No, I did not believe that part too. I did not find it realistic at all. Let me be honest. Because how many
Oh,
Ake exist
really?
in that place? What are the odds that after 2 decades, a man will still be waiting somewhere, would not have
Never,
married? All those ones.
you
Now
never can
fiction. You people
tell.
should not
You
even go
never
there. I'm a
can
killjoy
tell.
for clicks and no chopam. Thank you.
You never can
It's,
tell.
listen. I love a good love story. Like
Now so
I'm such.
Yes. Thank you
I,
for loving
too
it.
much K drama. But it's all good. I love the fact that Aki, and being a Yoruba guy, I'm also like, Yoruba boys are demons. Sorry.
Was it a demon? What
Uh,
demon? Come on.
but then I'm like, what are the odds that he stayed single after all these years? Ah, and the mama no put
well,
pressure on him.
technically, he wasn't single. He had the
Yeah,
Yeah,
wasn't
African
single.
American
technically
girlfriend.
somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, American girlfriend, but in this age and time, the kind of the men that we have out there, well, and see, Just enjoy your single motherhood and you'll be alright. Last. Don't have too much hope. I'm not a kill judge, but anything can happen, sha. But in my mind, I'm like, oh well, Akin, all the best. I'm someone like that. Yoruba demon, everything. Be taken.
But anyways, I think it was very good having this chat with you. Most importantly, I would say that whoever listens should really grab a copy of this book, not just for yourself, but
Thank
for
you.
your sisters, for your female colleagues, for your
All the females in your
classmates,
life need
or
to
for
read this
anyone
because
that
you don't know
anyone that
what people are going through behind closed doors. You don't know
yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
kind of actions it would inspire them to take. It might not even be women that are in abusive marriages. It might be women that are in very toxic relationships that they can literally see all the red flags. But because mama is mounting pressure, I'm already 30 or I'm above 30, and they still go right into it. No, you only snap me once, you apologize. Auntie, don't do
She wasn't
yourself.
even 20. She
Please
wasn't even she
run
wasn't
for
even
your
30 when it
life.
was 20.
Or
She was
like
21.
so again, I love the fact that someone that I know, shout out to Azafi, was like she's gonna make sure all her daughters read this book as and our kids are still teenagers. I love the fact that the content in it is easy to be consumed. There are no X-rated items, what's the impact in it, and it's a movement really as far as I'm concerned. I wish that maybe a Lagos state
Thank
government or
you.
an agency is just going to tap into this and make it like a text, come up with like a forum where conversations around around the book, the characters can actually be used to drive awareness concerning this issue, and we can't stop talking about it enough. Like we can't talk about this issue enough. We really need to put more effort, be a bit more creative about the ways we go about these things, and encourage women to break the silence. Like speak up, please. It doesn't
Yep,
make
yep,
any sense.
yep,
Like life is too short
yep.
for you to be stuck in a toxic relationship or marriage, and your life is very, very important to you. So shout out to every woman out there. Keep being queens and keep living it up. On that note, we're going to be calling it a day. Calling it a day, yes. Please, my gentleman. um, till we um till we hear from you again next time. I really hope
Okay.
you guys would tag us on social media. Let us know what your thoughts are concerning this book. If you've read this, give us a shout out, drop a review, rate us on any of the channels or platform you listen to us from, and let us know what your thoughts are concerning Tomorrow I Become a Woman. I can't wait to hear from you guys. And thank you once again, Haiwa, for coming on the show. We're looking forward to your next book, and I hope it's as captivating
Well,
as this one.
well, thank
I
you
Yeah.
hope
so
to
much.
see what happens
Sorry.
with. I said I hope to see what happens with Smalley and Aim.
I will give away any
Oh
anything.
my God,
Not,
I'm not
not
a romantic. I'm not chopping it. Please. Olomo, all the
All right, all
thank
right.
you
best.
Thank
Take
you
care,
very much. Yeah,
everyone. Till
take
thank
next
you
care.
time.
so
Bye.
much. Bye.